Hello, once again, we're back. It's Monday, and it's time for another live stream of the Hard Rock Show. I'm Andrew.
Brendan.
I'm Dave.
All right. Brendan's only going to be here for a little while. We'll get into a hot topic very shortly. He wants to jump in and have some fun before he runs away again from us. But before we get stuck into things, what you need to know about tonight is we're going to be reviewing the latest from Jethro Tull, Steve Vai, and Palace of the King, as well as revisiting a classic from Meat Loaf. We'll have a hot topic very shortly about, the current dramas happening with Spotify and all that jazz as well. And we'll have some singles to chat about from right after midnight, Red B, Asking Alexandria, and Hammerfall. So there's a bit there to get through tonight, as always. But before we get stuck into things, make sure you like, follow, subscribe, all the usual things, please do. All the details you need for that are in the description or the post of where you're tuning into this one from. So make sure you hit the like button, share it around, all that sort of stuff. Greatly appreciated by us here. Same thing for our fantastic sponsors. So a big thank you to Squidding Screen Printing, Alt Cult, and Rockstar Finance. Their details, just like ours, are in the description. So please do give them a follow or a like or a share. Any of that sort of stuff is greatly appreciated as well. Got some comments coming through already, so we'll say hello to all the people in just a moment. Fuck it, we'll start now. So here we go. We got Nudes here. Our good friend Nudes has joined us once again. So g'day, Nudes. Sally over here on Facebook as well, saying, hey guys, so good to see you here again, Sally. And Rowan over on YouTube. Good to see you here as well, Rowan Sumaleth. And then we got Nicole over on YouTube as well, saying howdy all. So got some regulars coming in, which is awesome to see. Thank you all for joining us tonight. And make sure you give us your thoughts and opinions and whatever else as we go through the comments here tonight as we go through things. There's always stuff to talk about. We'll get into those things in just a second. Here we go. Our good friend Sean on Facebook is saying good evening all as well. So good to see you here, buddy. Thank you for jumping in and saying hello to us. All righty. Before we get to the rounds, let's just do the rounds. Let's go. How are we going? So, Brendan, it's been a little while for you. How have you been?
Good. Busy.
Yes.
Summertime for us, and it has been abnormally warm in Melbourne. Like 3 weeks of weather like this is very unusual. That's kept things for us pretty bloody busy. But yeah, it's good. Yeah, life is good. Things seem to be getting back to normal. We're supposed to be playing gig on Friday, which that was sort of back in January when everyone generally collectively shit themselves. Us included, which is okay. There's no judgment there. It was getting a bit hairy there for a while. It looks like things are sliding back to normal, so it'll be good. Life's well.
Yeah, cool. What about you, Dave?
Yeah, I'm good. Been a busy week. Got the next part of my fence all fixed, and I didn't injure myself at all. There was no swearing. Neighbors must have been so disappointed. So
we got the photos to prove it.
Yeah, it was all good. My kids helped. I let them put up some beams, taught them how to use the drill. So it was their help that got it all done, I think. If I was left on my own, I would have been a disaster. But used the time to listen to Kissing Dynamite's entire discography. Fuck, they got some good stuff. So we reviewed them last week, their newest album, so I'll go back. So that was cool. Then had the Australia Day barbecue, played slip and slide with my kid both my kids after a few beers. So that was fun. Somewhat disastrous the next day. Everything was aching. So I'm too old for this shit, but I won't be stopping anytime soon. Drunk and slip and slide was fun. Especially seeing my kids having fun too. Apart from that, took the kids to the drive-in. That was fun. Had a hamburger. I'm happy with that. And kids went back to school today, so we're getting back into the routine. And hopefully they get a normal year, but it's looking like they will, because even if there is a case, they're not going to shut the entire year levels down, because they're doing regular rapid antigen testing. So we got them today, so I'm happy for my kids to do that if it keeps them at school. So minor inconvenience, but shit, it could be worse. It could be so much worse. So life is good.
Cool. Just more of the same from my end. Nothing much to report. Just keep on grinding it out and getting stuff done and getting all these things set up and doing a bit of a reshuffle on a couple of things, but nothing serious, and basically pushing the Patreon side of things at the moment too. So while I'm at that sort of thing, I'm going to quickly copy that link and give you all a shot at that in a second. We do have a few new patrons. So Conrad, I know you're a new one. I'm pretty sure you're floating around some of it. Thanks for joining in on the Patreon side of things. Same with Lee as well. A couple of new ones this week. It's in the comments now. It's also in the description. If you want to check it out and have a look, that'd be greatly appreciated. It'll allow me to do a lot more. But yeah, it's just seriously getting all this stuff going is what's keeping me flat out these days. So not a lot of time or room for a whole lot else. It's that nuts. It's insane. yes, I don't really know what else to say. It's just been listening to music, write reviews, filming, editing, and carrying on as always. Watch the Chiefs get knocked out of the playoffs today, which is a bit of a downer. But, you know, it is what it is in that regard. I mean, we've had a couple of good years, and today was this year's by far and away not a bad year either. It's just that, you know, you don't always get what you want, which is how it works, generally speaking. So on to the next one. We'll see what happens. But, yeah, good luck to the Bengals. They fucking played their tails off, so they deserve to be there. Good luck to them in a couple of weeks in the Super Bowl against the Rams. Yeah, that's about it. Just the same old, same old. Nothing much to tell in that regard. So, yeah, hopefully we get some comments coming through. We're going to start off, I think, unless there's anything else that anyone wants to add, we'll go straight to the hot topic. Now, just for those that are watching on Instagram, just so you got an idea, we don't see the comments. If you're leaving comments on Instagram, don't see them, so please jump into a different platform to leave a comment and give us your thoughts as we go along. I don't see them on this particular thing because it's all third-party app bullshit, so you know what I mean. But let's get stuck into the hot topic, which is what Brendan actually wanted to jump in here and chat about. It's been a bit of a back and forth behind the scenes in the chat with a few of us as well. And this is all about the current drama between Spotify, Joe Rogan, Neil Young, and a few other ones now as well. So it's getting to be a bit interesting where basically, for those that aren't paying attention, Neil Young issued an ultimatum to Spotify saying, if you don't get rid of Joe Rogan's podcast, I'm going to pull my library from your platform. Spotify said, well, you can pull your stuff. And so Neil Young got his label and pulled the stuff from what I've done there. There's been some other ones. I forget names now, but that was Joni Mitchell. That's another one. Yeah. And there was another one too. One of Neil Young's bandmates and something else. I think he's an E Street Band member as well. I forget his name today. Sorry. But there's been a few bits and pieces. It's sort of just starting to kick on. And this is all doing things like impacting share prices and all that sort of stuff. So it's getting a bit messy and interesting, but let's just get stuck into the meat of it. Dave, you've been doing some research and reading some news stories.
I've been following it since it happened. So, I'm a big Neil Young fan, so as soon as I hear he's doing something, I was like, oh, okay, this is interesting. Yeah. But look, I'll be straight up, I don't know shit about Joe Rogan, so it's going to be a bit of a biased opinion.
Yeah.
But I was discussing it with a mate at work today. He does listen to the Joe Rogan podcast. Okay. Apparently, Rogan will bring in somebody from the left and have a discussion about an issue, and then he'll bring in someone on the right the following week and have the same discussion. So apparently it's all open for discussions. But that's the problem with the internet. People will sometimes accept a discussion as fact. And by doing that, you will spread misinformation. So I can understand where Neil Young's coming from. Suddenly, opinions are facts. You don't need evidence or common sense to back them up. Because people don't go online to research; they'll go online to validate their opinion. I don't know if anyone's heard of Pizzagate, but there was a joke basically started a few years ago that there's an underground network of pizza stores that have a child pornography thing happening underneath with all these tunnels. So these rednecks turned up to a pizza shop with guns to free the kids, and there was no basement, there were no kids, there was no tunnels. It was just the belief of what they got from the internet, and this is what happens. So the power of the internet can be quite damaging to society. But, as a Neil Young fan, I've been following his career for many years, read his biography, listened to his albums, seen him live. I can understand where he's coming from. He's a polio survivor. So, and he didn't have the vaccine when he had it. It took a few years. It damaged his life for a long time. So he knows the benefits of vaccine. So, just in my own view, it's frustrating seeing the amount of crap that gets spread online and people just believe it. So I can understand where he's coming from. And, since Spotify paid $200 million for Joe Rogan's show to be exclusive to Spotify, Neil Young wasn't going to win this ultimatum, but he stood up for what he believes in, and he made a stand, and it's kicked off with a lot of attention. This is the discussion that a lot of people should be having, because it's not going to harm his career or Joni Mitchell's. His fans are boomers and older. Well, we're fucking Gen X here. I don't care. But yeah, we were on his albums on CD, so Spotify was convenient. So who the hell cares? But he did shine a light onto an important issue, and as a consequence, Spotify's shares have been dropping recently. Apparently, they dropped like 12% before this, and after that, they dropped another 12%. So they've lost $4 billion US in the last few months. A lot of it being in the past couple of days. It's not a new concern either. From what I've been reading, Prince Harry and Meghan they've voiced their concerns about online platforms, and there's also in this other article about 200 doctors, nurses, and scientists and educators have signed a petition, an open letter to Spotify, just to try and get some type of thing in place to stop spreading what could be considered misinformation. But Spotify isn't the only streaming service. Rogan isn't the only podcast out there. But Young probably heard this one and had a problem with it. But it's a difficult issue because the amount of content that's being put out into the internet, there's no way for any host of streaming services or social media platforms to regulate everything. I'm getting notifications on Facebook for stuff I posted 6 years ago. Apparently it's against the community guidelines, but they're on the ball, but they're 6 years behind. And that's just one little person on Facebook. I don't know what can we put in place to fact check or govern or regulate this, because you really can't. But, you could say it's up to the individual to do cross-checking or referencing. But like I said, people aren't online to fact check. They're online to validate their opinions. So, but apparently in light of this, the chief executive from Spotify has put there's going to be advisory things on Spotify podcasts or whatever. But either way, I'll still listen to Neil Young. He cancelled himself, and I think that's cool. So that for something.
I've got a lot of comments coming through. I will get to all the comments. I will address all the comments soon enough. But is that where you're at, Dave? Is that wrapping up there?
That's pretty much it.
All right. Now, Brendan, I know you have listened to Joe Rogan for a while. I don't know if you still do, but you were listening quite avidly for a while. What do you make of all this stuff?
Not adamantly. Generally, when you had a guest that I was somewhat interested in, because there's a lot of things like until you listen, you have no right to an opinion on this sort of particular subject. And I'll take it back. And my memory could be wrong on this, but I swear to Christ, it was the day after the Guns N' Roses at Call the Park thing. And I remember going to work. It was on my second week of work ever. And I'm sitting in with this old fuck, going around doing work, and he listened to 3AW as you do. So there was a bunch of extreme concern because they were about to play Silence of the Lambs on television.
Yes.
And there was a bunch of people calling in saying that this is hideous and they shouldn't put this stuff on television and the kids are going to see it and everyone will be fucking destroyed. And invariably, Neil Mitchell, whoever the fuck it was, would say, "Have you seen the movie?" "No, I haven't."
Yeah.
So shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
You'll find a lot of that with this Joe Rogan sort of situation. Now, I'm no massive Joe Rogan fan. As you guys know more than most, I'm a fucking left-wing nutbag anyway. I actually like Joe Rogan and the format of which his podcast is presented. The problem is that most Joe Rogan podcasts are 2.5 hours. So bring in a guest, no matter who that may be someone from the left, someone from the right, someone from the science community, someone from stand-up comedy, someone from UFC, whoever the fuck he chooses to bring in. And I'll have a 2.5-hour discussion about a lot of topics. And some fuckwit will grab a 15-second soundbite and say, "This is what was said." So there was absolutely no context. And I know this is just the world we live in. But I respect Joe Rogan and his podcast for the format that it's in. It's a wide, sweeping discussion. It's people, sometimes intelligent, sometimes not. But having an open discussion about things. They have an opportunity to put their opinion forward and explain their stance. And be it Jordan Peterson, be it Jake the Snake Roberts, it doesn't matter. They have an opinion to have that window to discuss something openly and without if you go on an interview in commercial television, you are stuck down to maybe 6-7 minutes if you're lucky that you might get. If you go on Jimmy Kimmel or one of these bloody shows, you have got a really small window to be entertaining. Let's face it, you don't get to have a discussion. And again, I'm not defending Joe. He said some fucking dumb shit over the years, but he's also got some really interesting guests. And for anyone that's into what we're into, I strongly suggest you watch the Ted Nugent one and the Henry Rollins one.
Okay.
Because they're really interesting. Now, most of us find Ted to be a pretty hideous human being. He is. And Henry Rollins, he's a really interesting character. It's probably more towards my school of thinking, but this Joe and Henry are saying they like Ted as a guy.
Yep.
Yeah, they think he's got some, fucking crazy ideas, and he does. That's a really sort of interesting way. But again, these are massive 2.5 hour things. Like if you want to dedicate some time, go and listen. It's interesting. So to actually try and pigeonhole him for this shit, and like a lot of this anti-vax stuff that he did, and he's not particularly anti-vax, he has said some stuff that I strongly disagree with, and has given some advice that I strongly disagree with.
Got a little bit of form. A little bit of form.
Yeah. If you're getting your medical advice from Joe Rogan, get your fucking head read. And he says that too. He goes, don't listen to me. I'm an idiot. He goes, I'm just listening to these people, and he hears things that he likes, and he runs with it, which we're all guilty of to a certain degree. When you hear something that triggers in your head, you go, yes, I agree with that. Therefore, whatever it may be. So to try and cancel him and censor him, I think's insane. And Neil Young can do what he wants. I'm not disagreeing with Neil Young either. I'm a Neil Young fan. He's going to lose his $6.70 a year from Spotify, and I'm pretty sure
$6.70.
Generous.
I'm pretty sure they'll manage, but to try and sort of blanketly say no, you can't. And who gives a shit? I mean, Spotify could drop him if they wanted to. He's still got YouTube and God knows where else he fucking wanted to go. You're not silencing Joe Rogan in a hurry, but you also you find Joe Rogan's not often making a statement. He's generally got people on there making statements. Sometimes he agrees with them, sometimes he doesn't. But without giving his format some credence or giving it some attention, you're really in no position to make any fucking judgment, I would have thought. Because, like I said, I'm a lefty nutbag, and I'll be, the three of us are probably on the 90% of the time on the same side of any argument. Yeah. And I find his format quite interesting and well done. It's certainly better than watching Q&A or all the other things that we, that we offers intelligent television. I think it's a much better format, but judge not, lest ye be judged.
Yeah, well, for us in particular, that's an interesting one. Are you wrapped there? That's it. No, it's all good. Now, I've actually come at this from an entirely different angle. I haven't listened to his podcast or watched it. I haven't seen I've seen little snippets here and there, but I know that's never enough because I know it goes for so long. You've told me a few to check out, Brendan. I haven't got around to checking him out yet. I'm always too flat to sit there and listen for 2.5 hours to one thing. I'm lucky to carve out enough time to watch a sport game a week, kind of thing. That's where I'm at with my time schedule. So I don't do a lot in that regard, and so I'm not going to make any judgment on his show or the format or any of that sort of stuff. Same thing with Neil Young. We listened to one album. I'm not a huge connoisseur of his work, and so I don't really buy into all these things. I've just found this to be really, really fascinating in the way it's playing out across the board, because you've got Sebastian Bach basically saying, if you side with fucking Joe Rogan over a musical legend like Neil Young, you're an idiot. And I would just say to Sebastian Bach, well, you're a bit of a dick yourself, because if you're a good musician, it doesn't make you an expert in any particular field about anything at all. We've seen that before. But at the same time, David Draymond's come out and said he doesn't agree with the ultimatum side of it. So he's come out and said, I don't care if it's someone pro-vaccine or against vaccine. Just don't make an ultimatum. I don't think that's the right way to do it. We should be able to have a conversation. So he's on the neutral freedom of speech argument. It's been really interesting going through the comment sections on these things, because you just see the amount of people going, yeah, fucking Joe Rogan, you can't silence him, you can't this, but all these people at the same time haven't said boo about I think there's something like 20,000 other episodes of different shows that have been pulled by Spotify for anti-vax sentiment. So I've seen that. I think it's 2,000, 20,000. That's a number that's ringing around in my head. They have pulled shows before from their platform because of the content in it, which means that in my point of view, every single entity in this is in some shape or form being something of a hypocrite. Because Spotify are choosing what they will and won't censor anyway. Neil Young can put his music wherever he wants to, and and that's okay. That's just free market working. And same with Joe Rogan. He signed a deal, and if he wants to break it, he can pay a fee and get out and go to another platform. This is interesting to watch the free market at work in regard to the share price and all that sort of stuff. So now there's a general share dip at the moment, but they seem to have been hit a bit harder than everyone else. And the fact that, the CEO or whatever has made a statement in the last 24 hours shows the pressure is biting, because Spotify has only just recently become profitable, if I'm correct. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they've only recently, in the last couple of years, become a profitable organization. That's after they were floated on the stock market. So they need the stock market to work with them, not against them. So it's a very fascinating play. I think that it'll be really interesting in my mind because Neil Young got the record labels to support his stance. If the record labels feel enough bite and they put more pressure on Spotify, it'll become really interesting in that facet as well, as to what happens with what catalogs and where it goes. It's just a fascinating exercise to watch this play out. The other side of the coin too is that Spotify isn't exactly endearing itself to the artists, because I think on the stream ratio they pay about second or third lowest per stream. I think YouTube's lowest, and there's one in between. Then there's Spotify. Then you've got all these other ones. So Deezer, Bandcamp, Apple Music, all those ones pay more than. So, for Neil Young to take his music off of Spotify but still leave it on the other platforms, and they're talking about the sample rate, the bit rate for the audio quality being better as well, it's not really a lose-lose in all these conversations. So I've even seen it for us. We started off with Spotify being our primary, when we get the audio uploaded, where people listen to it, it was Spotify. That shifted to Apple Music before this all started. So it's an interesting, when you put all of this into the pot of what's going on, it becomes really fascinating to watch. I think that Neil Young can do what he wants, Spotify can do what he wants, Joe Rogan can do what he wants, and I don't think there's any real way to police it. I don't think there's any real way to have a backlash either, because this is what freedom of speech and the free market is all about. So for the people that don't like this concept, just because you don't like the point of view doesn't give people the right, doesn't take away people's right to express it. Now, I do have a stance on anti-health information, and that should be pushed back against firmly. That's where I think it's incumbent on a platform, which we have seen happen in certain circumstances, where you have to sign up to and agree to the terms and conditions of anything else. So, for example, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitch, we're on Twitter, we're on fucking all these platforms. We have to sign up to each individual terms and conditions for all those platforms. Same thing with community television. I've got to sign a contract with them every fucking season. So this is, and that's where private corporations can do what they want as well. So it's like, just no one's taking away, like you said before, Brendan, Joe Rogan, if he wants to, can go and do whatever he wants. He can jump to another platform, and if they don't want him, his freedom of speech isn't taken away, because he can still go and create his own website and host it all himself if he wants to pay the cost on it. That's all. He'd only be losing a free platform that doesn't cost him anything to host it. He's not losing the ability to put himself out there.
And he's got money.
You lose a lot of money, yes. But that's where it costs money. Same thing with bands, though. Same thing with all the other entities involved in this. This is where all the individual rights and obligations really have crossed over in a fascinating point of view for mine. That's why I'm not really... I think everyone can go ham. Go at it. See where you land on it. And if people want to cancel their Spotify subscription, by all means, go right ahead. It's completely your choice to do so. If
I encourage it.
Well,
I'm not defending Spotify in any of this.
Not making any money. We're not making money out of any platform, so do what you want. There are things like our biggest reaches on Facebook. I hate Facebook as a platform. These are things these are the way these things work. So it's really going to be interesting to see where this rounds out. And I think the only thing that's going to matter in any conversation that happens here from this point forward, regardless of your stance on the health information, which I agree, if there's misinformation being out there, it should be fucking called out and squashed. And people can and should do that because they've got the same ability to do so. I would just think that it'll be fascinating, because the only leverage that's going to matter is the money. If Spotify's stock price tanks far enough, they'll jettison Joe Rogan, because it's going to cost them more than it's worth to keep him. And that's where the whole thing is going to come down to. That's the only change it's going to make. So we'll see what happens. I'm not particularly emotionally invested in either side of it. Like I said, the health concern I have, but that was, from what I can understand, it's one particular episode that's been called out, not his entire thing. Like I said, I do believe he has form, because he was talking about ivermectin and the other shit before as well. I'm not a doctor. Don't fucking listen to me. But from my point,
he released a 9-minute rant only 7 or 8 hours ago. It was a rant, to be honest. It was pretty well calculated. But it's two particular episodes where he had, one of the guys that was at the forefront of the mRNA vaccine. and some other guy, I don't know who it was, but they had great concerns about the longevity of the vaccine and sort of side effects. So and again, if you watch, and I have actually watched those 2 episodes because I knew they were the interesting ones, and it's a well presented discussion. Agree with it or not? And I don't agree with it, but I don't know anything about it. Who am I to argue with someone that's a fucking doctor? And based on this, Joe's got his opinions. Of course, I don't agree with either. He says if you're a young person, you're fit and healthy, you don't really need to be too scared about this thing. Now, there's probably an element of truth in that, which there's an element of truth in lots of things. Yeah, there's an element of truth. You don't have to fear this thing as much as everyone else, but most of us would agree. You get the vaccine, not just protect yourself, but protect others, and so on and so forth. So, it's anyone with half a brain can figure it out. You've got to put a filter on when you get any of this fucking information. You've got to sit there and look at it reasonably subjectively. And what he did say in his rant, he goes, when he has someone on that controversial, he should have the opposing counter argument very soon afterwards.
Yes,
he acknowledges that. He says, okay, and because he wouldn't know sometimes the backlash he's going to get. Yeah. So yes, he should guess if this is going to be controversial, I should have a counter argument not long after. To give balanced information. But the fact that he even acknowledges that, I'm like,
that's better than a lot of other ones.
Yeah, he's not out there trying to. And again, I'm not trying to offend Joe Rogan. I think to a large degree, I think he's a dick. But they say I like the format in which he's presenting his stuff. I think it's there should be more of it. He's just one that got a platform. Unfortunately, his platform's largely roided up fucking 18 to 50-year-old men. And that's what he gets. But he's attacked everything from bloody Scientology to Catholicism. They said he has stand-ups on there. It's such a broad range of what he does. And he essentially just gets interesting people in to talk. And that's good. Should be more of it.
I've got no problem with this, opposite points of view. I think that's a healthy thing to have in society. And this is a wider conversation. Now, I won't harp on this too long. And just for the record, for everyone that's watching this, at any point, be it now, future, whatever, talk to your fucking doctor. Yes. Don't listen to us. Yes. Don't listen to Joe Rogan. Talk to your fucking health professional. Don't listen to anyone online. Go face-to-face and talk to a fucking doctor at anything, not just what we're talking about here. Anything important. Go to your fucking doctor. I'm not professing to know anything about anything in this space. Nope. But so that's important. That's where I think if we had more of that kind of thing, like if you are concerned, you should go and speak to an expert in any field. Doesn't matter if it's to do with gravity or fucking vaccines or ducks, whatever it is. If you're concerned, go and speak to someone who's dedicated their life to that cause. I think, it's just been really, really interesting to watch this one just as a social experiment, just from purely stepping back and just watching the whole thing explode. Just go, okay, this is really interesting. But at the end of the day, it's just going to come down to dollars and where that lands, and that's all it's going to be. I think that, Joe Rogan probably got pulled behind the curtain a little bit and said, oi, and hence the response from what he said with that video you're talking about there, Brendan. I think he's had a bit of a quiet word behind the scenes, and he's gone, okay, well, I should probably try and tweak this, which is still better than a lot of other people. Like we got Trump fucking still doubling down that the election was rigged. It's like, okay. And that was in the last 24 hours. So, there's a lot of things in this space to play out. It's really interesting. Sorry, just got some comments. I'll get to those in a second, but I don't know. It's fascinating. David, is there anything else you wanted to throw in there at the end?
No, I'm good.
No, you're good. It's a really interesting conversation. So I'll go through some comments here. We've got some ones here too. So we've got a fair bit to scroll back through. Bear with me for a second here. Going back to the football for a second, the NFL, Nicole said, we got knocked out too, have to go for the Rams. Yeah, I don't blame you for that either. Our good friend Jeff, great guy, he's gone, hello, lads. Hope you're all well. Thank you for joining us here. Good to see you. Conrad's gone, I'm not at Live Rock Karaoke tonight, down at the Gasso, as I have a forklift driving course in the morning, so I'll be viewing the entire stream tonight. Fucking good luck tomorrow, mate. Forklifts
good luck, mate.
Well for you.
Keep the license going too. Don't ever let it lapse.
What was that?
Keep the license going too. Don't ever let it lapse.
Yeah. retraining stock.
Yes.
Yeah, forklifts are fun, especially when you can drive them drunk.
Yeah. Not that we ever done that.
Of course not.
Once.
And we don't advocate these things. Again, speak to an
Yeah,
expert.
no, that's bad.
Do not listen to us for anything important.
Anytime.
Forks are fun. Tractors are more fun too. But anyway, I haven't driven one of them for quite some time, back on the farm when I used to work. Conrad, I'm happy to give you some cash to Patreon. About bloody time I did it. And I'll have more information for you personally with the tier you've got there too for you very, very soon there, mate. So thanks for jumping in there. Brad's gone. Neil Young sold his back catalogue to an investment fund over a year ago. I expect his music to quietly reappear on Spotify soon enough. It's a silly protest that's made him relative again. That's a fair point too. It's got people talking about him at the same point. Yeah.
He's got his own streaming service for himself. His entire catalog, like even the rare shit, is on the website.
Wow,
it's pretty cool setup too. So you can subscribe to it and just get whatever you want off that. It's set up like a jukebox.
That's a good one. I didn't know that. That's
because he hated MP3, so he came up with his own format.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Good on him. And that's the thing.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, everyone can do that. We've got our own website. We
Post it himself.
Do it. Yeah, you can do it. It can be done if you put the effort and the money into it. Nicole said, my mum had polio. I don't, thanks to a vaccine. I think that's a general consensus for a lot of us here anyway. Jeff says, regarding Neil Young and Spotify, it's money over health. Misinformation is everywhere. We don't need our streaming apps supporting anti-vaxxers, etc. I, for one, would be cancelling my Spotify subscription. And that's a fair point too. But that's the free market at work. If you don't agree with it, you can take your money elsewhere. That's an open market. You can do whatever you want with it. And I completely endorse people doing that. I think that just as a context for that one, I think the only argument to say that in this context, Spotify is supporting Joe Rogan is because of the contract that was paid out. For all the other ones that are there, they're not throwing anywhere near as much money. I don't get any money at all from audio streams or even video streams, that matter, for the show. So what we do here, we don't see anything. We're not like a band where you can have that come through. We don't have the same setup as bands do. So that's why Spotify leaned into podcasts so heavily. It costs Spotify a shitload less. So that's where it's all about there. So anyway, that's a different one there. Brad's gone. Also, Dave, now that opinion spot on. So Brad agrees with Dave, what we're saying early on there too. But Rowan...
I can't remember what I said.
Okay. Watch it back later on.
I'll watch it back later.
Yeah, watch it back later. I will clip this and put it out as a standalone bit of content. It'll go pretty interesting. Rowan says, Rogan listens to both sides. His problem is he doesn't push back on obvious misinformation and sometimes ends up believing misinformation. Listening to both sides sounds great, but here it's a net loss. So that's an interesting point of view there from Rowan. Probably a fair enough one there, but I don't listen to enough of his show to even form an opinion on it. But talking about good episodes, Sally said Hetfield and Rob Zombie were pretty cool episodes as well. So there is obviously some good content for the musos out there too. Rowan actually also said, I actually like Joe, just wish someone a bit smarter was in his position or he could tweak the fight to fix the issues. There's some other thoughts coming up on that as well. And Rowan also said, if I had music on Spotify, I'd either want my music removed too or want to see if I could help Joe somehow solve his issues. And that's a different point of view there too, trying to get involved in the conversation and seeing what people can do there as opposed to a blanket, it's one or the other kind of thing. I'm not sure ultimatums actually accomplish anything anyway. I don't know anyone that's responded well to an ultimatum. Anyone, no matter how big or small the issue is, the second you issue an ultimatum, it doesn't tend to go the way you want it to go. Dean, good friend of ours. Hey guys, hope all is well. So say hello. That's cool there. Man family, some supporters of ours as well. Has gone interesting conversation. Thanks for having it. Good to see you here, and thanks for enjoying the conversation with us here as well. Jeff's gone, most people don't know that Spotify is Napster with a different name. They essentially reinvented themselves. Good on them, but there are many streaming apps out there. I don't need them, and that's a fair point too. That's the thing too. It's not the market saturation is much more diverse now. It's not just one or two anymore. There's quite a few out there now as well.
Rowan music of Spotify unless I get to be a guest on Joe Rogan's show.
Hey, James Blunt nailed the tweet. Like James Blunt threatened to put more music on. It's just like,
yeah, I saw that.
He's brilliant.
He's very clever. Rowan also said he should have the counter argument at the same time. Now that would be probably an interesting format to have.
Yeah,
side at the same time. That'd be interesting. So in context, what I was saying before, when I was talking about gravity, Rowan goes, I asked my doctor about gravity, and she was like, "What the fuck, Rowan?" So, he also said one of the problems with Rogan's format is that by giving 2 hours to each side, it gives them the impression of equal weight, but the sides of vaccination are not equal. And that's where I would argue that, yes, scientific balance is probably more important. But anyway, again, we're not doctors, we're not scientists. Fucked if I know. Back onto the NFL. Bengals shouldn't have made it past the wildcard game. Go Rams. So there we go. There's one from David. You're watching as well. Yeah, your Raiders got knocked out a bit earlier. So, yeah, commiserations all around today, I think. Dean said, both our teams are out of the NFL, Andrew. Bloody hell, thought we'd meet at this bowl, but maybe next season. Maybe next year. He's hoping. Fingers crossed. Stephen Moore, good to see you, buddy. Rocking in the free world. Unless you disagree with my view, then I'll withdraw my catalog and go home. And again, it is a free world, so you can do that if you choose to do so. You can take your ball and...
Oh, man, have a heart of gold.
There we go. Joshua Batten's here. He's gone, gave up on Spotify, and I discovered I could get better quality audio on Apple Music, and that's been an interesting revelation out of this too. A lot of people that have jumped different services have gone, actually, it sounds better over here, so that'll be something that Spotify probably need to rectify.
Yeah, but like, Apple aren't fucking evil.
They are. They all are. They all are. Anyone thinks any of these companies aren't, maybe Bandcamp might be the one that's not evil. They're at least the most good-hearted, if I can put it that way, from what I've seen so far.
They still skim.
Yes, I know. Everyone does.
Is this stream going to Spotify?
It will be.
It
will be going, but it will also go into Apple Music and all the other ones as well. So, it'll be wherever you get your podcasts, folks.
Cool.
But Josh also said, keen to hear your thoughts on Tull. We will be getting to that in due course. He also said Milli Vanilli threatened to put someone else's music on Spotify. That'd be interesting. But Joshua also said Bandcamp are the most artist-friendly, lol.
Yeah.
Hey, that's my impression of it. I don't know much about Deezer, so I can't comment much about what Deezer do. So there's no real good outcomes for streaming services all around. You just have to get them the... Well, here we go. There's a different conversation here now. Steven's gone, isn't the real issue with Spotify the pittance they pay artists? So I was saying earlier on there about third bottom, and that's definitely true. And it needs to be... I'm not so concerned about the rate per stream. I'm concerned about how they're divided up, because you don't get paid per stream. You get basically given a market share slice kind of thing. It's not an equitable or fair way of paying artists. I think you should be paid by the stream, not by... This is what we're paying all the artists. Nicki Minaj got this big of the pie, and you got the crumb kind of thing. Yeah. You just get paid per stream. But anyway, we've had that conversation many a time. I don't think we did back over that fucking old argument again amongst us here. But yeah, we will move on unless there's anything else that you guys wanted to throw into this conversation while we're at it. Nah. Brendan, you really fucking spent more time here than you planned on in the end. Was it worth it?
Absolutely.
Oh, good.
Who doesn't love to get on and voice their opinion like it fucking matters? Yeah.
That's it. That is ultimately that's all of us, isn't it? Seriously.
You're listening to me above Joe Rogan, you're a fuckwit. And that guy's been punched in the head a lot.
Yeah, I've been hit in the head a few times as well, so can't speak much sense in that regard. Look, yeah, bottom line on all this sort of stuff, if you're concerned about anything, go and speak to an expert. Don't listen to fuckwits online.
Yes.
That's a good rule of thumb to go by. If you're concerned about anything, go and speak to an expert. Don't listen to fuckheads online. And then we could avoid all this sort of stuff if that was more widely disseminated. But anyway, that's a fucking different conversation for another time. And I think we'll move on. So that means we get to let you out of here, Brendan. Yeah. Did you want to put anything in the bin before you go, or are you in a good mood?
Ooh.
Ooh. Ooh. Ooh.
Well, that was really on the spot.
Yeah, I know.
What goes
I can put it
away? Russian tennis players.
There you go. Came there in the end.
There he had to go with the fucking ball kids.
Yeah, that's fucking
shit.
Yeah, fucking don't do that.
You want to get booed for the rest of your career?
That's
well done, son.
Never ever punch down. Never ever punch down, you fuckwit. Yeah, don't ever do that shit.
We can play tennis, but Jesus Christ, did he fucking miss the ball on that one?
It's a good thing he's a tennis player because he's probably an ordinary person.
Probably. No, he's Russian. Yeah.
Apologies to anyone tuning in from Russia. I don't know.
He's such a kind-hearted people.
All right. Well, on that note, I think we'll let you get out of here unless there's anything else you wanted to throw in while you're here.
No, that's it. I'll avoid it.
That's it.
Putin will be at the front door in a minute.
Yeah.
You can get Di to answer. All right, take it easy. Cheers for joining us, mate.
Bye.
Cool. See ya. All right, and then there
Yeah.
were two. Oh, here we go. So Joshua's gone. Put him in the bin for not staying for the Tull review. Okay, well, this is true, but he's a very busy man running his own business these days. We are getting to that. We're going to get through a few singles first, then we'll start getting into those reviews. So, first single we're going to talk about tonight is the latest from Ryan. Right after midnight. Sorry, it's in the links and everything we're talking about. Yeah, right after midnight, not fucking Ryan. Riot after midnight. But everything we're talking about from this point forward, there is a reference track for you in the post, in the description of this one. If you can't see it in the comments, I will put them in the comments as we go through, and I'll flag when it's done. But just make sure you hit the post or the description of this to check out the links we're talking about as well. They are there, whatever platform you're on. So, first single we're going to talk about is Riot After Midnight with Yours All Night. It's in the link is in the comments in the description as well. So, Dave, what are you thoughts on this one from the Melbourne band?
Yeah, this is cool. Everything this band does is cool. But the first thing that I noticed when this song starts is the fucking guitar tone. It's so good. Love that fucking crunchy sound. It's so good. This band is a lot of fun. A lot of fun in their EP they had last year or the year before, and live, and this song's cool. It all just comes across in their music. And this video is bright and happy and fun. The chorus is instantly catchy. It's just such an earworm. And there's a cool little bass breakdown in the middle. I thought that was cool. And the vocals fit the sound of the band perfectly, and the great use of gang vocals. And, the great build-up at the end. And then it finishes with that solo running out until the end. It was just a lot of energy towards the end. And I thought the song was a lot longer than it was, but it's like 4 minutes 40 or something. A lot happens in that 4 minutes 40. Yeah, it's kind of proggy with different sections. I thought that was cool. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. Thought it was good.
It's a pretty solid hard rock song, this one. Now, if you like this track, they've got an album already out, and there's a new album coming this year, which is what this is from. So this is the first single from a new album coming up later on, which is very, very cool. The album they've got out currently is self-titled, so just go and look it up on all your platforms. It'll be there. It's a bit rough around the edges, but this is what these guys do very, very well, and I like the rough around the edges approach that they've taken. You don't want to polish this sort of music up. It's just very much, this is the sort of stuff you want to see. Like, there's a reason why these guys play with Ether Damn Orange, because... And it's not to be a dismissal thing. It'd be a lot of fun to see this live in the bar environment. That's what this is perfectly built for. It's fun on CD. It's fun on your streaming. It's fun live. It's all fun. It's all a good time. There's more to it than that. Like you were saying, there's more technicality in this. But what I just like is the hook, the fun, the gang vocal on it. Just how infectious it is. Like, if it's not the hook, it's the energy. It's the fun aspect that comes through. Not many bands can really pull it off where you can get the fun feeling through listening to the song. And this one has that. The video just sort of adds some flavor. Like, they did a lot of shit in the video. I don't know where the fuck they filmed that, but well done. They were dressing the place up so well. But yeah, if you like your hard rock with a party vibe, this is it. This is one of the perfect bands for that kind of stuff. It's solid. It's chunky. It's fun. It's just not complicated. Like you said, there are little things, but as an overall listen, it's not a complicated song. It's just sit in there and get on with it and fit in the groove, and off you go. And it's just one of those ones where seeing this live is where it's at, and I look forward to doing that when we can do that as well. It's a very cool first single. The album's great. I enjoy this one. Looking forward to much more from these guys in the near future as well. Now, for those playing at home, we do go through some severe gear changes in these broadcasts, and we're going to do that in just a second. But Dean said, what an idiot fucking sore loser, the Russian. So there we go. That was one agreeing with Brendan there before from Dean. So thanks for jumping in on that one. All right, next single to check out, folks, is a band called Red B. The song is Beautiful Wreck. So Red B is the band. Beautiful Wreck is the song. There's a link in the comments and in the description. This one comes from Lee, who's one of our Patreon supporters, who does some great stuff. You've seen him on some of the TV broadcasts before as well. He sent this one in to us. It's from a New South Wales band, Red B. I wasn't even sure of these guys until of this one now, but this is a bit different. Dave, how'd you go?
Yeah, it was a bit of a grower. The first time I put it on, I really wasn't sure what to make of it. Throughout the main riff, there's all these odd slides and bends, and it's strange. It's not something I usually listen to. It took a few spins to kind of get my head into it, but
yeah,
it was interesting, and because it was interesting, it kept me going back to it. It's something a little different. I like that. And the video itself had some very engrossing images. I wasn't sure where it was going as well, but it keeps you watching. So this band's kind of hypnotic, both in their imagery and their music. There's some elements of modern rock, some of the heavier styles of rock, some of the harsher vocals. And then there's some prog elements in there as well. And there's certainly kind of an artistic, arty feel to this band. So I haven't heard anything else from them before, but they're certainly interesting in what they do. And they've got a lot of good ideas. So the singer did remind me of the guy from Alien Ant Farm. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but kind of got that tone.
Right.
I'm like, yeah, but overall, it's good. I'll check out more from this band. It's interesting.
Okay, cool. For me, what was interesting here, like this will be for fans of bands like Carnival, Butterfly Effect, Cog, maybe a bit of 12 Foot Ninja kind of thing, that kind of era, that kind of style. There's a bit of that about it, but at the same time, there's also more extreme twists and turns in this. Like you referenced the more modern, it's almost got that sort of metalcore tones in the guitar and stuff in it, but it's clean vocals pretty much all the way through it. It's actually really nice melodies going on this stuff. And so you've got this really weird, aggressive gears, which is offset by these wonderful, beautiful spaces in the song, which is in play in the video and in the song itself. It's a really intriguing listen. It does take some severe left and right turns, but it makes it all fit, which is unusual and it's hard to do. They did a very, very good job of making this thing cohesive. It's got your technical elements. It's got some nice flow, though, at the same time. I don't know. It's really, really interesting. It's that Jekyll and Hyde effect. You got some really aggressive stuff and you got some really beautiful stuff in this one too. And I just really did enjoy it. It's different. And getting something that's different that stands out, that makes it memorable for the fact that it's so different is unusual. And I really enjoyed it for that alone. This, if you like anything from modern metal to sort of more arty progressive stuff, you're going to find something in this to enjoy. And I reckon this is like, it was interesting because I thought you'd like the prog elements, but I didn't think you'd like the tones, for example. And I think this is one of those ones, no matter what your taste is, you'll find an aspect in this song which will hook you.
It'll draw you in, yeah.
And it'll come back for more, like it did with you. So I think it's one of those songs that's very, very clever, very interesting, very cerebral, but it's also very organic at the same time. It's very hard to pull this off. They've done a very good job with this song. So I'm really impressed. And they've got another single coming out soon, I think. So, yeah, looking forward to what they've got coming next. So I'm very curious about this project now. They do have, I think, an album out or an EP out. They've got other stuff out there before this one. It's a 3-piece as well. So this would be really interesting to see this pulled off live too. But, yeah, very, very cool stuff. Interesting, different. Check it out, please, and let us know what you think. All right. Next up is the next single we're going to talk about here, which is Asking Alexandria. The track is New Devil, and it's got a guest spot from Maria Brink of In This Moment on there as well. So that's the next one. So it's Asking Alexandria. That's the band. The song is New Devil. Again, the link is in the comments and it's in the description as well. Before we do chat about that one, Sally jumped in before to say the video is interesting. This is more than one listen type of deal. I liked what I heard, want to hear more, curious. Yeah, so that's exactly what it is. Sit with this one for a bit. It's a very good song, that one there from Red B. All right, okay. Roland's gone Red B sounds cool. So there we go. We're getting some winners on this one too. All righty. But changing gears, over to Asking Alexandria now. Like Asking Alexandria, this song has a guest spot from Maria Brink of In This Moment, and the song is New Devil. It's from an EP of the same name, if I'm correct. What do you think of this one?
I know nothing about this band other than the band name. They usually show up on festival posters with other bands that I probably wouldn't like. So I wasn't expecting to like this at all, but this is actually really, really good. It's got really good song structure. I like how the riffs and the vocals kind of had their own space in the verse and not overpowering each other. With this usual style of music, it's really full on and everything kind of overshadows each other, but this has a lot of space, and I thought that was cool. It gave everything room to breathe. It's a very big sound, but it's not everything at once. I thought that was very cool. There's a cool solo, which always draws my attention. And the lyrics are quite engaging. I think that's what really drew me in. And I really like the male and female vocals. That brought an interesting dynamic to it. So the guest spot on this was pretty cool. My only criticism of it, and that's personal taste, I think it's a little bit overproduced. And it seems to be like effects or something on everything. That's kind of what gives it a big sound. So it's kind of, it just seems like there's a lot going on. But
there's a lot going on.
It's a contradiction because I just said there was a lot of space in the composition. So it's just this sound of modern rock / metal that I still have to get my head around because I'm still so old school. But yeah, I wasn't expecting to like this at all. But on the back of this song, I might check out some more of this band because this was actually really good. Yeah, I think I've overlooked this band, so I have to give them a listen.
I'd say proceed with caution on that one, Dave. The last album, they released the album last year. The new EP, which this song is from, and the album that was released last year, I don't know how far back it goes, but The album last year was really melodic and really more rock based. They started out as one of those more metalcore kind of bands. So they were more extreme, which is what you're talking about with the tones and that kind of stuff there too. So they've leaned into that tonally, but they've shifted with that into a more rock and melodic based vibe, which is what you get with this song here.
Okay.
Now, I actually didn't really put Alexandria on our radar of the show for a while because of that history. Once I heard one of the singles from the album last year, I was like, oh, hang on, what have they done? So you start looking through fan feedback and go back a few albums. I think you've got a few albums there where you'll notice where it'll change and it'll go to a more of which the style I know you won't enjoy, but you'll be able to work your way. But I would say work your way backwards. Don't go to the start. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the way to do it, I think.
Yeah, if this song gets your attention, do it that way. Don't go to the start. Unless you want the more extreme side.
I'll go backwards. I'll stop before I start.
Yeah. That's why I'm also talking to the room that are paying attention to us as well tonight. The thing about this one, what you're saying is very, very true. It's melodic. It's got space. I didn't mind the tone of it because I was expecting that kind of style of production from these guys, and that is the modern side of things. So that doesn't bother me as much. So long as I don't clip it, I'm okay with it, kind of thing. So long as I don't fucking drive the headroom to there's no room at all, then I'm okay with what I do in that regard. This is just a really good song. I liked the interplay between the male and the female vocal. On this one, I think Maria Brink sounds great. It's a very complimentary thing. No one really stands out above the other one. They had a very complimentary vocal performance on this, which worked really nicely. The song has a lot of meaning, like you touched on. This one's really, really cool. It's nothing terribly original. It's just a nice sort of, melodic, hard rock to heavy rock kind of a song. But it's very well done, and it was interesting to hear because I hadn't heard much from this vocalist either. So hearing him with a female vocal as a counterpoint was a nice touch on this style of music too. So I'm like you, a lot more curious about this band on the basis of what I've heard over the last sort of 6 months than I have been up until this point. But it's a very cool track, very well done. It's nothing, like I said, nothing groundbreaking original. It's just a very good, solid, hard rock song with a lot of melody and some good vocals, good riffs, all sorts of stuff. So if you like that, check it out. I think it'll appeal to a lot more of the audience than I think we would have expected a few years ago talking about this band. All right, on to the last single we're going to talk about here, which is where we're going to keep moving through the motions here. In the comments, in the description, you're going to find the latest, or the last one we're going to talk about tonight, which is Hammerfall and their new single, Venerate Me. So the band is Hammerfall, the single is Venerate Me. This one's interesting because there's a guest spot from King Diamond on vocals.
Oh, really?
For this. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, there you go. So King Diamond supplies some of the vocals in the layering of this one there too. So how do you go with it, Dave?
Yeah, I like this band, but I've never been a huge fan. I've heard a couple of albums here and there. I'll give it a once over. I got a couple of singles on CD from years ago. Yep. They're a band I like, but I don't give them many repeat spins for some reason. There's other bands that did this style over the past 20 years that just appeal to me more. But that's not to say I don't like them. I do like them. But this song, along with the previous single, Hammer of Dawn, could be the best stuff I've ever heard from them. So I'm really looking forward to this upcoming album because I don't know what they've done this time around. They've really just clicked, and they're producing possibly, I don't know if there's been a lineup change or they just decided to just be more them, but they've kind of got something unique this time, something that sets them apart from the other melodic metal bands. Hammerfall have been around for fucking decades now. But if you like your old school metal, big riffs, high note vocals, cool solos, lots of melody, it fits the category of what I like. But just something about these two songs, it could be just simply down to good songwriting. It's just some fucking great riffs and some great vocals. So based on this and the previous single, I'm really excited for this new album.
Cool. Oh, for those paying attention at home, the new album is called Hammer of Dawn. It's due out on February 25th, so not too far away now. It's a matter of weeks. But I'm exactly the same as you. The single before this one and the new single now have really, really impressed me. I liked, because I got the press release, because I got the press release and you get told that, King Diamond has a guest spot and that's one of the selling points of it and all those things. When you're listening for it, I love the way the lead vocals are intertwined on this one. You can't really tell one and the other apart. They have really, but that's not to say they sound the same. It's just that where they sit harmonically, it really works well. It's not a huge shift. It's just they're just off a bit. It's almost a bit Alice in Chains where you're using the minor kind of third kind of territory, just that shift in tone. But they've done a really good job with it. And the way this sounds, the mix on this sounds fucking great already. Like, I love the way these two songs are mixed. The video from the previous single was fucking cool too. But yeah, this one, got my attention really, really quickly. It's one of those ones where it's just got that rhythm that you want. Like you talk about the riffs, the guitar work, the rhythm on this, like the drums, the bass, and then you got the vocals on top. It's one of those things where if it ain't broke, don't fucking fix it. If you write good metal songs, write good metal songs. And this is fucking cool. I'm really looking forward to this album. It could be one of the. It's always hard to say because you've got 2 singles, and that's where we're at the moment. But this one's hyping me up. I'm very keen on this album in a few weeks' time, so we're definitely going to be covering it off on the show. Very, very keen on this. And I don't know. It's like you said, it's one of those bands where they just seem to they've slipped by my radar a lot over the years, but I've liked what I've heard. But yeah, this one's just like, okay, cool. This is really, really nice. And the King Diamond effect where it's more melodic and less extreme is very nicely done on this one too. So yeah, it's a good song. It's a really good song on its own merit. The guest spot is just a fucking icing on top of the cake. But yeah, if you like your metal at all, get onto this one. This is very, very cool. We've got some comments coming through on this one too, which is cool. So, Man Family have gone, what a great blend, great tune, which is awesome. Thanks for jumping in and sharing that one there. Nicole has gone, Hammerfall have some great songs and followed up with their song, Last Man Standing is my favorite of theirs. Awesome, cool. And Australia on Facebook's gone, harmonies are nice in the vocal. It's my sort of sound. Yeah, I think this is going to appeal to a lot of us out there that are watching this one tonight. So this is one of the ones that it's targeted to our audience. Get on this one. I think if you're going to choose one single to listen to, aside from the locals, always check out the Aussie bands. But yeah, if you want to check out the international one, check out that one. The Swedish metal band are going all right with this one here. I'm very, very keen on the album. All right, keep your comments coming as we move along. We're going to move on to our first review of the night. And Dave, I hope you keep up because I might have shifted the order a little bit. We're going to start off with Meat Loaf tonight for the obvious reasons. So give yourself a second there while I go through the usual stuff. So I'm putting in the description and in the comments now the track Paradise by the Dashboard Light. That is the most popular one to listen to on streaming services anyway. So this is Meat Loaf, Paradise by the Dashboard Light, which comes from the album Meat Loaf, Bad Out of Hell, which is our first review of the evening tonight. We're obviously doing this one because of the recent passing of Meat Loaf himself. So I figured we'd take some time, go and revisit this particular classic album. Before we got stuck into it, Conrad said, seen Hammerfall live in Europe a few times. I never disappoint. Awesome. Cool. Very much another, everyone's looking forward to this in some way, shape, or form, which is fucking awesome. That's really cool. Alrighty. First review, Meat Loaf, Bad Out of Hell. 7 tracks, 47 minutes, the debut album from the American singer and composer Jim Steinman. Released October 1977 via Cleveland International and Epic. Produced by Todd Rundgren at various studios across New York and New Jersey. 5 singles were released, including the title track and Paradise by the Dashboard Light. Originally developed from a musical based on a futuristic Peter Pan, this spawned 2 sequels. Is one of the highest-selling albums of all time, to peak at number 14 in the US, number 9 in the UK, number 1 here in Australia, with top 20s across Europe and Canada. It's been certified 2 times diamond in both Canada and Denmark, 14 times platinum in the US, 11 times platinum in the UK, 17 times platinum in New Zealand, 25 times platinum in Australia, along with platinum in both Germany and the Netherlands. We were going to do this one on Thursday. We don't want to let this one slide, so we're doing it now. So, feel free to give us your thoughts on this album as we go through it here. But, Dave, we've never reviewed Meat Loaf on the show in years. How'd you go?
I do like this. I haven't heard this album before in its entirety. This is my first time listening to it. But, like you said, 5 singles, and there's, 8 songs on it? That's 7, the majority. Yeah, it's the majority of the album anyway. Yeah. So even if you don't know this album, you know the songs. It was kind of iconic when I was growing up. You hear it on TV shows, on the ads, in music stores, all. Yeah, so even if you didn't know who it was one of those artists that you knew the music. But it's an obvious concept album. It's very theatrical. There's a lot going on in these songs. Not just musically and vocally, but in themes and mood and story. And it's a very grand project. And there's been a very big team of people around to pull this off. Operatic in places. What's that? Yeah.
Especially in the 70s. Yeah, just logistically.
Yeah. No, but, operatic in places. There's great shifts in mood. There's a diverse listen throughout. It can be like a big rocker. not just big rock, like big stadium rock, but kind of theatrical rock.
Yeah.
It's kind of got that different element to it. And unless I'm mistaken, I've never been the hugest fan of Meat Loaf, but I don't think he wrote these songs. I think he had writers writing before him. I could be wrong.
Most of this is done by Jim Steinman. It was composed by Steinman, so yeah.
Okay, cool. So like Elton John and Bernie, Elton did the music and Bernie wrote the lyrics. So some people like to bitch, so he didn't write his own stuff, but who cares? He made these songs his.
Yeah.
Whoever was writing the lyrics for him, he made it personal. You can tell in the way he delivers. So, that's awesome. And you certainly can't deny this guy can sing. He's got a hell of a voice. He can project when needed, and his range just shifts from subtle and quiet to just big and booming, and without missing a step. That was amazing. There's some very nice piano in this. I like piano as much as I like guitar. It's a very beautiful instrument. It can be dramatic, and you can get, but it's a string instrument as well. So you've got that human touch, and I just think that it's a good element to something like this. But I like being a concept album. It didn't have little songs. So many concept albums fall into that gap of doing short songs. They'll never be performed live unless you're doing the whole thing, just to kind of tell the story. And the whole story gets told in these grand epic pieces. And there's a lot to it. But overall, I enjoyed listening to this in whole because I know these songs, most of these songs, I'm growing up. I gave it 8 out of 10. Bad Out of Hell, 2 Only 3 Ain't Bad, and For Crying Out Loud. That was a cool song. It's a good way to end towards the end of the album. But that was good.
So it's one of those ones where Jody loves this era of stuff too, like Rocky Horror and Bad Out of Hell. Like I put this on in the car. We're heading out to dinner to see our girls the other night, and I put it on in the car, and she's singing along to this quite happily. It's one of those ones where if you're into it, you're into it. If you're not, you're not. But at the same time, it's a bit different for us to cover this kind of stuff. We don't normally go into this kind of territory. I've got a couple of things here tonight. It's actually kind of fitting that we got this and Jethro Tull in the same episode. It's going to work well together in the end. But worthy of respect. I liked what you were talking about, the element of opera or theatre about this one. You can imagine Meat Loaf would have been amazing in a theatre, in a stage play. He'd have been great on Broadway, places like that. Now, when you read up on this, there's quite a few references, in commentary and stuff to Springsteen. That makes sense, although this does step aside from Springsteen too. So if you like, the Springsteen stuff, check out this stuff too, because there is a crossover element that is a good gateway there between the two artists. Anything from this era, the late or mid to late 70s, where it was really sort of grand but flowed. It wasn't, the Zappa effect where it fucking went everywhere. It was just very, very big, very bold, very artistic. If you like things like Jeff Wayne's War of the Worlds, I might be one to check out as well, because it's got that whole. It's different because the spoken parts are much, much shorter, but it's got that theater element, which is refreshing to listen to every now and then. This puts me in mind. It's funny because yes, Meat Loaf made an appearance in Rocky Horror Picture Show, but it kind of puts me in mind of Rocky Horror at the same time. Like you can imagine, it's all from the same era, the same vintage. It all feels the same way. Even things like you get down to Blues Brothers, that kind of stuff. It's that era, that vintage, that whole feel of all this sort of stuff. It all feels the same that whole time. This is much more of a rock opera. It's less of a street story kind of thing. So you're not getting the Zeppelin effect where they're talking about dragons or they're talking about whatever, or you're getting the Bruce Springsteen. It's a street power kind of thing. You're getting something that's very much a rock opera kind of vibe. It's really, but there's little spoken pieces that I mentioned before. They add to that dramatic effect. Now, I'm not entirely convinced of the narrative being told really clearly in that concept, but the way it worked in and the drama attached to those little pieces was really nicely done on it. When you get into just how much trouble they went through to get this even released, like they went from label to label to label for how hard it was to even get this thing recorded to what it ended up becoming. That story, if you don't know it, go and look it up because it's fucking insane. They basically had to lie that they were signed to get a producer to do it. And then they got it done, got it signed. It was like on the arse end of a pimple on an arse kind of thing of a label at the time, and it just fucking went off. It's one of those things where it could have easily not happened, this album. And who knows how different music history would have been had this album not come about. This is an album you should listen to in its entirety. Don't just pick and choose tracks like Dave was saying before. Don't do that. Listen to it in full. It's much more appreciated in that way of doing it. And, if you're not into big bands with piano, strings, brass, all that kind of stuff, this probably won't do a hell of a lot for you because it is more built around that as opposed to riffing and that sort of stuff. There's not a lot of, virtuoso guitar performances or anything like that, but this is a big band feel in a room and it feels real and live. So the production on this was fucking amazing. This sounds great. Love the way all the tones on this one, sounds great today. There's little bits of panning and layering, all these little things like it. Just listen to just the track Paradise by the Dashboard Light. It shows you how much detail went into all this stuff with the different instruments involved, the tones involved, the way it's mixed and panned. And it was really well done. That production side adds to the experience of listening to this album in its full, content. Like listen to this in its full context and you will really sit down, headphones or darkened room speakers. It's that one of those listens where you just take it all in. It really gets impressive very, very quickly. It's not an album I'll spin often, but when you do spin it, I'm going to listen to it all the way through. And in terms of execution alone, that makes it worth listening to. It's not the most hard rock thing ever, but I think this is one of those ones where if it's not essential owning, it's essential listening because this does have a big bookmark in history and what it accomplished and what it kind of paved the way for things going on. I imagine it would be harder for things like Tobias Sammet and Avantasia and that to get off the ground if these things weren't to pave the way for those acts. So this is very important in historical context, but it's one of those ones too where whilst it's not the thing you'll listen to all the time, it's one of those ones when you do put it on, you just sit there and you get fucking locked in. So I gave it a pretty good score. I got a 9 out of 10. I really did enjoy this one the more and more I spent time because it's one thing to listen to it. It's something to listen to it and break it down the way we do it here. And just listening to the attention to detail alone was enough to fucking go, okay, this one deserves a lot more credit than I was giving it previously. Even though I liked it, I just needed to give it a bit more credit. So 9 out of 10. My standards are a bit different to yours. I picked All Revved Up with No Place to Go, Paradise by the Dashboard Light, and the classic Bat Out of Hell as well. So those are my standouts in this one. But yeah, this is a very cool album, and it's cool. We both sort of, got to a good point on that one as well, which is nice. Got some comments coming through, so I'm going to quickly scroll back to go through those. Nude says, I liked Meat and Rocky Horror, but nothing else has done anything for me. And that's fair enough too. There are a lot of people that, don't quite gravitate to this, and I understand why. But yeah, I just think it's important to acknowledge this one, especially in what's happened in recent times. But yeah, it's just, important to acknowledge this record. Conrad says, my mum still has this record on vinyl. That's pretty cool. That'd be worth a bit these days. Jeff says, interesting to know that Bat Out of Hell is the biggest selling album in Australia by anyone, 25 times platinum. Whispering Jack is second with 24 times platinum. That's a neat little fact there. Thank you for sharing that with us there, Jeff. Nice. Nicole says, Meat was a theatre actor to start with and always considered himself more so than a singer. And that shows. I think that shows the drama in the performances. But I liked the female vocal on this too. I think that's underrated on this record. That's really underrated. That back and forth was fucking great. That was really cool. Sally has said, when Meat was younger, he found it very difficult to be on stage as himself. He had to be in character in his head to be confident and free. That's what the theatrics and epic over-the-top drama presentations have always been about. He adapted to the audience over time and was able to chill and do him, but by that stage, his voice was compromised. That's a shame. But fuck, like you said, Dave, his voice on this, wow.
Great.
Awful. Basher, good to see you here. Thanks for joining us tonight. A masterpiece album and one of the most powerful tracks of all time in Bat Out of Hell. Bought it in 1977, still playing it regularly. All tracks rock and are a lot of fun. It's one of the few albums that our whole family get into. 10 out of 10. Nicely put. Thank you for sharing that with us. That's awesome. All righty. Time to get on to the next one. We're going to try and get through these reviews so everyone's not here until stupid o'clock at night because people have to work. Yes, Scott Ian Anthrax. He was his father-in-law. Yes, that's true. From Conrad there too. So nice little additional footnote there. But our next album we're going to talk about here is Palace of the King, live in España. So Palace of the King live in España is the album. The reference track for this is Palace of the King, Take Your Medicine live. So check the live one for this. That's what we're going for there. So yes, Palace of the King, Take Your Medicine is a live track that's in the description. It's in the comments, so it's got a little bit of a weird error thing pop up there, but it's all good. But we're going to talk about the next album now, which is the Australian act for tonight. This is Palace of the King, live in España, 6 tracks, 32 minutes. It's what I believe to be the debut live EP from the band, released January 2021 by Reckless Records. Not sure who or how this was produced. One single has been released in Take Your Medicine. This recording comes from the band's 2016 European tour and follows some other revisiting of previous works. They've been pumping a lot of that sort of stuff up recently too. How did you go with this one, Dave?
Yeah, I love this band. I've seen them live a couple of times, and they always put on a great show. It's great musicianship, lots of groove, lots of energy, and this recording just captures all that. It's really, really good live recording. I mean, it's the next best thing to be in there. It sounds great, and the band, they just had a really on night. They're always on, but it's just something really special about these performances. I'm glad it was documented. It's one of those bands that they just had that connection, like the Hendrix Experience back in the day, or Cream, with the just loose jamming, and they just had this telepathy between each other. Everything works beautifully together. And I like how this isn't just a cut and dry copy of the album performances. I mean, there's one song, and Another Thing Coming is twice as long. Twice as long as the original. It's got so many jamming. Love it. It just makes it more interesting to see a live show or to hear a live album. It gives you something that you don't get from what you get on the albums. I like how they include Howlin' back from one of their earlier EPs in their early days. I've pretty much forgotten about that song. It's been a while. It's been a great set list overall, ending with the opening track of their album White Bird Burn the Sky, that song Take Your Medicine. That was a cool way to end the show. And it's been, I have to admit, I haven't listened to this band much in the past year or so. They've kind of been quiet, but now that this is out, it's just like, shit, I'm going back over all their albums. Because I hope they got some new music coming soon, because they've been a bit quiet, and I miss seeing them live. I miss hearing music from them. But I gave it 8.5 out of 10. No Chance in Hell, Another Thing Coming, and Take Your Medicine for my stand-ups.
Cool. Yeah, no, I completely agree with everything you just said. I don't know what's going with me. Excuse me. This is a cool, like I said, if there was any footage of this, I would love to see that released as well. That would be fucking amazing, because you can tell by the vibe, by the band being on. Like you mentioned, the band are always on, but they were fucking really on for this one. And the way the audience, you can hear the audience interacting just enough, so you can just feel this would be a great show to watch. It just basically is high energy, classic infused hard rock here, but it's got all the classic influences you want through this one too. I think the mix is really nicely balanced, especially for a live one. You can hear everything. Nothing is overpowering. A lot of these albums with this style of music where there's an organ involved, the organ tends to overpower and drown out everything else, and that has not happened on this one, which is a fucking great nod to how this is put together. The vocals cut through nice and clear. They're still a part of the band, not separate, not two in front. The whole sound wall is really much in sync with each other. And, I just thought that the guitar tone was fucking great as well. Like this live sound, like the band are fucking phenomenal. Let's just put that on the record. The band are fucking fantastic. If you haven't checked this band out before, fucking go back. Just start with Velas Marineros and work your way back from there. That you're not going to be disappointed with anything they've done. But I liked how, the only critique is you might say the sound might be a touch, like the smallest bit boomy. But I think that's a trade-off for making this more balanced and giving it a bit more punch overall. So I think it was well and truly worth it. It's a very small critique that I'm giving it, being me on things, but I liked the tone of this. I like the sound of it. This is not it's not a dislike. It's just an observation, if that makes sense. I really like the way this one sounds and how it does capture that live vibe, which is really fucking cool. I think the track order was great. Like the band are clearly on, like we were saying before. The groove, the swing on this, the choices of songs, putting it out this way, it fucking flows so well. This half-hour listen flies by, and it's so easy to repeat spin. There's great groove, great swing, loads of melody. Like the hooks are fantastic from these guys as well. And the live element actually complements it. Like you were saying before, there are certain songs they've stretched out and made more of a jam band kind of thing in there. The whole live feel to this kind of music just really works. There's something about it that's special. It won't be replicated on CD. This is the one where, if you go and see this sort of stuff live, you're going to sit there and you're going to be transfixed. You're not going to look away for a second. You're going to stand there and just be fucking locked in. They're that good. And this EP gives you that experience listening to it. It's infectious. It's fun. Would have loved to have been there myself personally. If you like the band, check this out. If you're a fan of old school, rock, then this is cool too. Conrad says before here, he's gone, sorry, I'll put it up. He's gone, sounds like a modern Led Zeppelin, which is a very fair comment. But also put me in mind of Deep Purple made in Japan.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there's some good comps for you to sort of, take in and go, okay, if you like those, you're going to really love this. So please, if you're a fan of classic rock, get onto this one, because as far as live releases go, this is fucking up there. This is really well done. Great talent on display here. Like I said, it leaves you wanting more, which is the best thing too. It does make you walk away wanting more. It's got very, very few of those. My pet peeve with live albums is when they sort of kill the crowd noise kind of thing, and just cuts off and then comes in again. You got like the tiniest touch of that, but it's really not much at all. This is incredibly well done for a live record. Fuck, check this out. Check out everything the band has done, because they fucking kill everything they do. This is a great one. 8.5 out of 10 from me. No Chance in Hell, and Another Thing Coming were my standouts on this one in particular. Alrighty. Now we're going to get into... We're going to go all over the joint. So next up is Steve Vai, folks. So while we take you through a fucking merry-go-round of different music and different styles, different themes and feels and stuff, this is Steve Vai. The track we're giving you to reference in the comments and in the description is Teeth of the Hydra, which is the newest video, I believe. But anyway, it was one that popped up in the search. So Steve Vai, Teeth of the Hydra is your reference track. The album is in Violet. We're going to get to that in a second. Okay, cool. Bash has said Zeppelin, Deep Purple, made in Japan. Definitely check it out now. Awesome. Please do let us know what you think, because I'm looking forward to hearing what people think about this one in particular too. And before we get into the new review, Rowan's gone Vai, so I'm assuming you're pretty excited for this one, which I'm pretty sure Dave is as well. So let's get stuck in. This is Steve Vai in Violet. 9 tracks, 47 minutes, the 10th solo studio album from the guitarist, released January 2022 via Favored Sons and Mascot label group. Produced by Steve Vai himself, 4 singles have been released, including Little Pretty and Zeus in Chains. For the guitar nerds, there's a lot of info if you go digging for it. I'm not going to go into it all now, but there's fucking so much out there about what guitar was using, what track, and whatever else. It's just go nuts. I'm not going to do that. We are going to go into the album, though. So, Dave, how'd you go?
Yeah, when I found out he's got a new album, I was just like, hang on, when was the last time I listened to a Steve Vai album? And it turns out I've missed the last 2. So it's actually been 17 years since 2005 with Real Illusions. So I fucked up there. I was a Steve Vai fan in my teens, and by about 2002, 2004, I was regular buyer and reader of Guitar World, and he used to have regular columns and instructions and 30-hour workouts. So became a massive Steve Vai fan around there. It's so much useful information and techniques. The guy is an absolute fucking master of the guitar and music theory, and thankfully, he's not a slave to his knowledge. He uses what he knows to his advantage, and if he wants to have this emotion or this feel or this mood, he knows exactly what technique and what scale, and just it's fucking genius. And it's such an easy listen going through this. I mean, it goes through so many different moods and feelings and dynamics and diversity and solos and tones, and the things he can do with a guitar are just awe-inspiring. Steve Vai, it's just one of those guitarists that I'd love to steal his setup, his guitar, his amp, his effects, and I probably wouldn't sound like him because of all the stuff he uses. It's still the feel of the guitar in his hands, and that's really depressing because there's only one Steve Vai. It can't be replicated. And listening to this makes me reminds me of why I love guitars and why growing up I thought that was such a cool instrument. It's such versatile in the hands of the right musician. It's been used and abused throughout the decades, but it's refreshing to hear somebody who just genuinely loves the guitar and loves making music on it. And some of his playing can be challenging. There are parts that play against your expectations of what you would expect in composition. But to me, that's great. You get something different. You get like a different feel or a different style. Because he studied world music. He's gone to different countries and made music in different countries at times. But then you also get back to just the awesome heavy riffing and cool shredding. There's a song called Zeus in Chains, and it's got a fucking killer riff in it. And that tone's got some real balls. And the solo is just a very nice mood change in the middle of that. And it goes through different style and techniques to get back into the song. I love how that developed. And then there's Avalanche, which is a perfectly titled song. Holy shit. The fucking drumming on that song is insane. And it's just a musical onslaught.
just because the song's cool, but I found it to be one of the weaker ones on the album for me personally. But
Okay.
yeah, just the tone didn't grab me on that one.
Okay. And then there's Candle Power, which has got some brilliant harmonics and there's slides and bends. It just makes a really, really interesting track. I mean, he doesn't have to shred all the time. He can just do amazing things with harmonics. Like, dude, how do you bend the harmonic? What the fuck are you on, man? What the hell?
Yeah,
and then there's a nice change in mood with Greenish Blues. You know, he can play subtly, and he's got some blues, he's got some feel. So there's a lot of shred guitarists out there, but there's not as diverse a player as D-By. And I gotta say, the guitar on the cover with 3 necks, and one of which is a bass, but half of it's fretless, and the other one's a 12-string, and the other one's a 7-string. And listening to these songs, I'm just wondering how much was overdubs and how much is him just going from one neck to the other. Because I've seen him play 3-neck guitars before live, and he'll just have like a effects loop where he'll play something on one and keep it looping, and then just strum the top one and let that ring while he's playing the solo. And it's like, dude, what fucking drugs are you on? You are not mortal. But it's just mind blowing. But yeah, I gave it 8.5 out of 10. Zeus in Chains, Candle Power, Avalanche, and Greenish Blues were my standouts.
Cool. All right. Over the years, as you would know, when we go through these guitar albums, I tend to struggle. I don't get into them as nearly as much as people like you and Brendan, for example, in the crew get into them. I typically struggle. I'm happy to say this one wasn't nearly as hard to listen for me as a lot of the other ones are out there. This is one that you have to focus on. Don't listen to this casually. Go and sit down and pay attention to what's going on here because there's a lot of detail in these songs and the performance as well that goes with it. But there's a lot of drama. And for all of the clinical stuff that goes into this, there's a lot of feel. And that, to me, was the refreshing part, was the feel that was involved in the playing. There's different gears on this one. No 2 songs are alike. There's plenty of chops on here, so don't worry. You'll get your solos and your flash and all those things too. But these are also genuine songs written as complete songs, not as an excuse for someone to just fucking go nuts on a guitar for 5 minutes. And that, to me, is where it really does sit in. You actually had aspects of this where the drums and the bass got to take the front of things for a while and the guitar stepped back. Not many solo guitarists' albums will do that. They want to show off as much as they can. There's a lot. This feels a bit like musical ADD. He's just pulling out all the fucking ideas in his head and sticking them down, and it makes them work. He makes them work very, very well. But what was cool in that dynamic was how the other elements got to shine and come forward as well on this one as you're listening to it. I did get a lot more out of this, like I said, when I was focusing on it. It's worth paying credit to the song in particular, Knapsack. He apparently played that one. There's a video kicking around of him playing it one-handed after surgery. I think one hand had fucking surgery on his shoulder as well. Like, he's playing this thing one-handed. It's like, for fuck's sake. Like you were saying, what the fuck are you on? Because, and that's there's some beautiful moments in there, but there's some fucking solid shredding in there too. It's like, that's not an easy song to play. None of his stuff is, but that song in particular for one-handed playing, go check out the video. As always, you do get some meandering. Like I said before, it gets a bit of that musical ADD kind of thing, which is just taking things, pulling him out of his head, literally, and putting him down. So it does tend to get a bit meandering at times where I find it loses a little bit of the point for me as a listener. But again, if you're into this stuff, it's not going to be a detriment because it's riveting. It's so well done. It was just from a pure composition point of view. It's only a few moments here and there that didn't quite grab me as much as I was enjoying the rest of the stuff. But the actual overall shifting of the album through the motions and listening to the album as a complete listen is very well done. It's actually really nicely put together and it flows nicely. There's some great use of the whole peaks and troughs. So, for those paying attention, have a drink. But yeah, this is it's one of those ones where it does fly by this listen too, especially when you sit down with it. When you're walking around and just got it on with a noisy background, it maybe not quite so much, but sitting down with it fucking flies by. This is an actual journey in these pieces of music, which is awesome. I think that tracks like Little Pretty are the ones that I was talking about before, where it starts to get a little bit just a bit too far down the garden path. Not bad. It's just a few steps too far down there kind of thing. It's like when you start calling the dog back. Hey, come on, back we come. Just at the edge of the range there kind of thing. So just at that point for me. But the tones on this are fantastic. The mix is great. As far as production goes, Steve Vai is a fucking machine. This is really warm, really incredibly balanced. And what was cool was how the tones shift from song to song. It wasn't like he just dialed in a tone and just went at it for 45 minutes on that. There were different tones, different, like, you got the three-headed guitar and stuff. But you've got a lot going on sonically here, which is fucking cool to listen to. And that makes it also refreshing to sit through this sort of stuff too. It's not just the composition, but also the tonal shifts. So the production combined with the writing actually makes this thing a really easy one to take in for this style of music in particular. You have to like guitar to like this one, which I think is most of us here. But even if you're not into it hugely, this is one of those ones where it's going to be a bit more accessible than you might think. For me, like I said, I struggle with this stuff usually. Not so much this time. It was actually nice. It was a good... This just felt good to listen to between, the songwriting and the production. This actually had a feel-good vibe about listening to it. It was actually really pleasant to take in. Little bits of Foley and chimes, piano. There's a lot of little elements mixed into this one too, which made it, gave you little, high points to sort of take in on the listen, which is a nice touch as well. Like I was saying before, sit down, take this one all in from start to finish. It won't be for everyone. It's one of those albums that, it will be for more of the guitar freaks out there. But at the same time, even if you're not, if you're more like me and you struggle a bit with these ones, give this one a go. If you're going to listen to one of these ones this year, this is probably one to go to because it's very well done. Very, very well done. This is actually a lot more impressive than I expected it to be. If nothing else, for me, the track Teeth of the Hydra, the opening track of the album, the one I've linked here tonight, that's the one you got to check out. That song alone, you have to listen to that one. If you don't like the rest of the album, that's okay, but I reckon that song in particular, that's an album opener. That is really well done. I gave this one an 8 out of 10. Teeth of the Hydra, Candle Power, and Knapsack are my standouts on this one. So good little cross-section there as well. Cool. Got a few comments on this one too. So you referenced the guitar there, Dave. Nudes has said, world's ugliest guitar on the cover. I want one. You wouldn't be. Our good friend Andrew, he's gone, hi, finally having work and drops latest shifts for me for the next few weeks. Hey, good to see you here. Thanks for jumping in, and it'll be online for you soon anyway. You'll be able to watch this back whenever you want to, so don't worry about that. But I'm glad you're here. Thank you for joining us tonight. Rowan says, when I was a teen, I had a wall dedicated to Vi posters, so there you go. You come to the right place. Rowan also says I'm going to have to get this album, I think. And, yeah, if you're a Vi fan, get this album. It won't stop. Nudes also said the dude got the thumbs up from Frank Zappa. What more do you need? And that's a fair recommendation in and of itself. And Man Family have jumped in to say so many songs and artists to listen to I've neglected. Steve Vai for a while, got to get back in him. This is one to start with. This will get you back into his stuff pretty bloody quickly, I think. I mean, I'm not a huge guitar album connoisseur. This one's pretty fucking good. If it gets an 8 out of 10 from me, Dave will know that's pretty up there. I don't normally score on that well. So there we go. Alrighty, on to the main event. So, Josh, if you're still here, this is what you've been waiting for a while for now, but we did finally get there in the end. We're going to talk about a bit of Jethro Tull, which we've talked about once and once only on the show in the past, over the decade plus now. So, in the comments in the description, your reference track is Jethro Tull with the Zealot Gene. That is the song. So, Jethro Tull is the artist. The Zealot Gene is the song. That's your reference track. It's in the comments. It's in the description, so go and check it out. While we go through our main event of the evening, which is this, Jethro Tull, The Zealot Gene is the album title as well. 12 tracks, 47 minutes, the 22nd studio album from the British band, released January 2022 via Inside Out Music. Produced by frontman Ian Anderson. 3 singles have been released, including Shoshana Sleeping and Sad City Sisters. This album has taken about 5 years to get made. It's their first studio album since 2003's Christmas album. It's also their first album of all new material since 1999's jtull.com. And it's their first album with this particular lineup. Like I was saying before, we haven't spent a lot of time on these guys. The last one we touched on was, I think, a torture choice from the audience or something like that. I forget how it came in, but it was a weird choice from the audience. It was their 1972 album, Thick as a Brick, that we covered off quite some years ago. But probably, 4 or 5 years ago maybe we did that one, Dave? At least
possibly,
3.
Yeah, it's been a long time, possibly even 5 or 6.
Yeah, it's been a while. We did it at the garage. So, yeah, that might be about 5 maybe, that one. Yeah. Anyway, it's been a while. Yeah. So, new Jethro Tull, how'd you go?
Oh, this is great. I spent a few hours on the weekend just listening to this over and over. My wife, Julia, was a big Jethro Tull fan. It's pretty much how I got into it. And when they came out 11 years ago, she was pregnant with Jade at the time. We saw them at the Palais, and it's such a great show. Ian Anderson's fucking great. So I heard a lot of their songs for the first time live. But, yeah, and Jade liked it too. She was kicking away, and Jade and Julia, it was cool. Yeah. But, yeah. And, yeah, the lineups have changed over the years, but this band just somehow has got their Jethro Tull sound. And if you if you never listened to them before, this can be a great starting point, and then work backwards because they have a lot of great songs. I think they're underappreciated in some cases. But throughout this, Ian Anderson's vocals are fucking amazing. He doesn't sound like he's I don't know, 70 these days, but he just sounds.
He's up there. Yeah.
Yeah. His vocals are awesome. And his lyrics are interesting. He's a very intelligent man. And he's got a great way of wordplay and a great way of telling stories. And that came up in the live gig as well when he was telling stories in between the songs. Yeah. But there's a lot of different instruments on display in this. You got your electric and acoustic guitars, obviously, drums, bass. There's also keys and synth and, of course, the flute. Yeah. And everything just blends together really nicely. The flute melodies are great, and there's not enough flute in rock these days. When I discovered Shadow Gallery about 15 years ago, prog metal, a bit like Dream Theater, they had a flute in their first album. I'm like, holy shit, that actually works really well. So when Julia showed me this band, I showed her Shadow Gallery. It's like, yes, see, flute works in metal. But
now you guys are still married.
Exactly. We kind of complete each other's yin and yang. The flute and the guitar works really well. The opening track, it's got a section where there's a flute solo, then a guitar solo, and it just flows perfectly. That opening track, Mrs. Tebbit, the guitar tone on that, it's fucking beautiful. Yeah. And then there's a track, Mine is the Mountain, very cool progressive section in the middle there. I don't think Tull ever wanted to be called a prog band, but it certainly had the prog elements. And because they use so many different elements, so many different musical instruments, and it's grand composition, so it all flows together really well. But recording of this began, as you said, 5 years ago, and then they had to tour in 2019, 2020, and then COVID hit, and the world went into lockdown. And as a result, the drummer can't record at home. So the last 5 songs don't have drums. Yeah. Which I really didn't miss them. The energy didn't drop from the album. As on a repeat listen, it's not a glaring change. It's just a nice shift in mood. And I thought, it would have been interesting to hear what they would have been, but you don't. I think it's shit falling off my chair. Yeah, but it's an interesting change towards the end of the album. I gotta say, age is irrelevant. People might say this is a dinosaur band, but if they can continue to produce fantastic music like this, it's not a job that you retire from. You don't.
Yeah, I don't buy that argument at all. I think that argument needs to be retired itself.
Yeah, I hate it because we reviewed a few albums last year from some really old musicians, and they can still go.
Scorpions all sound good, and so does Saxon. They've got albums coming out soon.
Yeah, so they've been around for years, and we look what I forget about last year. I won't go on, but people grow and change over the time, and they change their music approach. But this it fits in right alongside a lot of their classic albums. So if you like classic Tull, or if you've never heard them before, definitely get on this album. So I got 8.5 out of 10. Mrs. Tebbit, Mine is the Mountain, Zealot Game, Free Love's Free, and In Brief in Visitation.
Okay, cool. Yeah, like I was saying, not a band we spent a huge amount of time. I've got some comments coming through. I will get to all those comments, so just give me a minute here, folks. This is one of those ones where we are going to, go more outside of our traditional realms a bit, but it's worth doing so. And, tonight's a good night. It's a bit of a theme with Meat Loaf as well, but it's working well. There's a bit of art in this one, which is really cool. You got that folk element, and that's hard to sort of dismiss when it comes to the flute being involved in it. But I liked how there's such a strong emphasis on storytelling, and that is really well done on this one too. The artistic side of this gives it a really nice sense of drama. There's almost, again, that theatrical approach to this one too. And the whole presentation does really tie into that really, really nicely. I thought that the way the production was done on this album shifted nicely, and it added to that effect. So different songs had different things getting pulled and pushed in and out of focus. If you listen to, some songs the flute was up, on other songs the guitar was up. There were other bits of like that sort of stuff added to the way this album moved. So it gave the whole thing breath, and that in and out of breathing kind of thing with this album was present on this one. The way they used reverb, different EQ settings, that kind of stuff, just thought it added to the drama. It brought things to life and pulled things down. It really did shift the way you listen to this album. This is one of those ones where do not listen to this as a background listen. Do not. You've got to sit down with this one. You have to. For me, I was listening to it while doing housework, whatever else. It did fucking nothing for me. When I sat down and listened to it properly, that's when I'm like, okay, I get it. This makes a lot more sense in that context. Now, it was interesting to have the flute so prominent on this one. It's that and the vocals really do push out the front, which is an interesting sort of choice overall. But at the same time, it was a bit unfortunate because I felt like that pushed the guitar back. If they'd have just had it a bit more even, like, yes, there was push and pull, but I found on balance the flute and the vocal were that step out front, where if they'd been a bit more in tune or in balance with the rest of the band, so the guitar could come up a bit more, it would have just evened it out a bit. But it's not a bad thing. It's just me being picky because that's what I would have liked to have heard. Everyone else going to have a different opinion to that. It's subjective, so whatever, fucking ignore me. But I just would have liked to have heard that done a little bit differently to the way it was. But there's some, certainly once you get under that, there's some rock and there's some metal in this, in the guitar work, the riffing, the energy on this one too in certain songs, along with the drums and the bass, that really does get to drive things at different points in time, which is a really nice touch. This, isn't without punch and bite. This has some balls to it, which is very, very cool. There's also some darker touches in the note choices and the composition, which is another well done trick on this as well. And like I'm saying, enjoyed this one as a focused listen, not as a casual listen. It's funny that you mentioned the last sort of handful of tracks. So I did read up on that and how the drumming wasn't really a part of it all. And you don't miss the drumming, but I did find that last handful of tracks from sort of track 9 onwards. So where have we got here from? Where did Saturday go? I think that's where it kind of lost me a bit there, because it was like, okay, that last bit, because the dynamics they changed because the drumming wasn't present. And I get why, and I fully understand, and I respect it all, but it just felt like that last 4 songs or 5 songs just really dragged it out. And where we liked Thick as a Brick, because it was 2 songs, one each side of the album, it was really interesting composition and it flowed. Because this didn't quite have the same effect, it wasn't as riveting. It made the album feel a lot longer than it was to me personally. So it's one of those ones where there's some really good high spots, but there's some interesting spots where you sit there and go, okay, I can appreciate what's going on by long, but I really do appreciate it. But does it hold me as a listener, as just engaging me? This is much more your wheelhouse than mine. You're much more into the technical, progressive side of things than I am. But it was still very interesting to me. It just didn't. It was all well performed, but there was that section of the album at the end. It would have been better to break it up, maybe put those songs a bit earlier on, or give them more dynamic. You know what I mean? As opposed to having the whole thing there for the last sort of 15, 20 minutes. Yeah. It's almost half the album in the listening time of it, where it's like, okay, it wasn't, because it wasn't a complete piece, it didn't move the way it wanted to, or I wanted it to move to hold my attention, I should say. It just sort of fell away from me there. But if you put those songs on individually, they're good songs. Do you know what I mean? It was just that stretch of them, which was just sort of wow. It's one of those ones where it's a grower. It'll sit with you, and the more you spin this one, the more you're going to love it. This went up every time I listened to it. So even on a casual listen where it didn't grab me, I still appreciated it more with each spin. I've given this about 3 or 4 spins, maybe even 5 now. It's one of those ones where, it will grow. And I'm curious to go back to this one in sort of a few months from now, as opposed to listen to it in a row in a week, because my score will probably go up over time. And that's not to say it's a bad score. It's just I feel like I want to go higher, but my score at this point in time with my critique, I haven't gone. Like, I've gone where it sits for me today, but it could very well be higher than this. So, I gave it a 7.5. So it's not a shit score. It's not a bad score at all. I gave it a 7.5 out of 10, but I feel like I could go to 8, 8.5 pretty quickly. But I just want to get a bit more time with it before I do so. But for now, 7.5 out of 10 for now. I also picked Mrs. Tibbet, same as you, the Zealot Gene, and the Betrayal of Joshua Kind was a really cool one there as well. So those are my standouts on this one too. But as far as this sort of stuff goes, it wasn't as gripping as Thick as a Brick, but it was a very good listen all the same. Just by comparison, other stuff I listened to tonight didn't hold my attention as much as other ones did, but still very good. If you're interested in this stuff, go and check it out for sure. You won't be disappointed. Comments. Let's go to comments. Unless there's anything else you wanted there to rebut me there.
No, all good.
Nicola's gone, Zappa and Jethro Tull live in my record collection. Nice change from metal. Love them. And that's what these albums are. These ones, these sorts of albums are those ones you do want to have for a bit of a palate cleanse, so which is cool.
Yeah.
Josh has the good memory, unlike me. It was my choice in the Terror Trust Lounge 2019. There you go, from Thick as a Brick. Going back a few years there. So that's 5 years now. Fuck me. I was, pretty close to the mark. All right, cool. All right. Rowan says, I love Shadow Gallery as well. So there you go, Dave. Josh also says, you guys need to talk about Crest of a Knave from 1987, the album that beat Metallica for the Grammy. Not a metal album, but a sport album regardless. I would like to do that one day. Just compare the albums side by side. That'd be an interesting one to do. Actually, what we should do, just as a side, I'll note this one. Go through like the Grammy nominees or the ARIA nominees of like a particular year for rock and metal, and just do our own little mini battle.
One. Yeah. That'd be fun.
That'd be interesting. Just that's pop in my head right then. Just like we should go back through these contentious decisions over the years ago. Okay, which one would we have chosen if it was up to us? That's not a bad one.
I feel sorry for Alice Cooper because he had to present that award and he says Jethro Tull. I was like, yeah, bullshit. Like, I'm serious. It's Jethro Tull. I'm not kidding.
Yeah, it's one of those moments in TV that's etched in time forever. But yeah, that'd be an interesting concept to go through. Just pop in my head then. That might be one to explore. We could that'd be a neat little hot topic draft kind of segment. That'd be cool. Andrew Marshall, huge Tull fan from my teenage years in the late 70s. Saw them live in Sydney in 94. Missed them in Melbourne when he blew out his knee in Sydney. Looking forward to giving this a listen. Please do and let us know what you think. Looking forward to hearing what I want to hear actual fans of this band. I know that you are, Dave, which it has more sense for people that have more of a history of this band than me. Yeah. I would like to get more input in that regard. That'd be cool. Andrew also said, Chris Quinlan and his missus at the time got to have a walk-on part in the 94 Melbourne Adelaide shows. I'm trying to get him to write his memoirs. Fucking hell, man. That's a neat fucking thing. Wow. Yeah, Chris has got stories. Chris has a lot of stories. And if you get a chance, check out his show as well. Melbourne Musos, if I'm correct. Andrew, let me know. I think it's Melbourne Musos on Channel 31. I think it's Thursday nights. Just confirm for me, Andrew, if you're still here, when his show is on, please. So I can give that a quick plug online here too. Sally's gone, this isn't for me mostly. Some songs I can roll with, but generally nope. Just as an aside, you can't say Jethro Tull without me having the codpiece and zippy flute mental image shift into my head. There is imagery involved. But yeah, this is one of those ones where it's not going to be for everyone. That's okay too. It's just one of those nice, but it's cool.
This band was a big influence on Steve Harris.
Yes, that's true.
You can hear it, especially like from Brave New World onwards. You can certainly hear the Jethro Tull influence in the Maiden sound.
Mm-hmm. And on that regard, I'm all for it. So it fucking worked well. Here we go. Andrew's confirmed for me. Melbourne Musos, Wednesday night, 10 p.m. Sorry, it was Wednesday night. So cool. Melbourne Musos, Wednesday night, 10 p.m. If you want to hear Chris talking about everything to do with Melbourne, he's a passionate man. So if you like your Melbourne music, follow his show and check out the socials for that one as well. Melbourne Musos, Wednesday night, 10 p.m., Channel 31. Check it out. Basher has gone on to that conversation we'll start and have there, Dave. Dinosaur bands are still very relevant now. In a way, it's very sad to hear classic tracks continuously on, especially two radio stations, Triple M and Gold FM. Do not listen to those stations. I've heard it before. That's why I'm here. I want to hear more new hard rock bands. Nice. Thank you for joining us. That's what we're all about. We're always trying to find the new stuff. We're got some stuff. What I like, or we both like doing this, I'm assuming in this context, we'll always find new shit. Always find new stuff. Which
new bands and new music from old bands. It's always good.
And we always find, what I find cool, because we did the Magnum review not long ago.
Yeah.
And that was, our first or second review of that band, and they've done like
22nd album or something, and that was great.
That was cool. And it was funny because we're getting comments on the YouTube version. We're going, I'm glad you're finally getting on with this band after 20 plus albums. Hey, that's what happens. You don't listen to everything all the time, but this is the journey for us. We listen to in the order of 300 plus albums in a year, generally speaking, probably closer to 500 than 300 if I was going to really put a number on it as a collective. So we do a lot of listening, and it's just really, really cool to find some different stuff. And always find new things. Every year we find, whoa, what the fuck? And we always find ones we haven't checked out before. And so they go, fucking hell, I missed this band. But you just never find them. So
that's it.
That's the fun part. So we've got one coming up next week. We'll see how we go. I know you won't be there on Thursday, but if you get a chance, there's a band coming on Thursday. I'll get you to check that one as well if you get a chance.
I'll give it a listen anyway.
Yeah. But I think that about wraps us up for tonight. Is there anything else that you wanted to add in before we start wrapping things up?
I think it's enough tonight.
Yeah, we spent about half an hour on fucking Spotify. We always do. Spotify always fucking gets us talking for hours, that shit. So we didn't want to wrap it up. Comment from Conrad here. He's gone, I can't get the flute scene from Anchorman out of my head when I hear Jethro Tull mentioned. So there we go.
I can't get the flute theme from Bandcamp, American Pie.
There'll be go on, give us all the references you've got in the comments, folks. That'll be a bit of fun for us there. And while you're doing that, I'm going to give a quick shout out to our Patreon supporters. So a big thank you to Tim Caterson, Sonny Donabell, Lee McDonald, Conrad Collins, who was just here and there, Jason Winch, Brendan Ellison, 16x9, Marty Powell, Sam Biondo, Trash Vegas, Carolyn Mallet, Gwyneth Richards, Andrew Heyman, Daniel Bateman, Man Family, and Bell Wright. Thank you all so much for your support. If you would like to jump in and help us out, it'd be greatly, greatly appreciated. We're up to about 30 plus people in there now, but we can always use more. And there's a link again in the comments in the description. So basically, the entry level shit here is like 50 cents a week, $2 a month. You'll get about a dozen, on average, about a dozen tracks, new music a day direct to your inbox, and also exclusive content. That's just at the $2 a month kind of level, and you go up from there. So please do check it out. Any help you can give us by that platform allows us to do a lot more here. We're all volunteers. We all have day jobs outside of this stuff, so there's a lot that goes into what we do here. So please do help us out in that regard and allows us to do a lot more. The biggest goal for me personally, because I'm the one that sort of quote-unquote is the one working on it all more full-time than anyone else, is that if I can get enough security that I can turn down some day shifts and focus on doing some interviews, that would be fucking golden, because you'd get the same emails, Dave. The time shifts, the times that they come through are fucking all over the joint. It's either ridiculously late or stupid early, and you just can't factor in working environments around that. So I'd love to be able to turn down some day job shifts to focus on doing more of this. So if you could help us in that regard, be greatly, greatly appreciated by anything you can do. It'd be greatly appreciated by us. Also, for a lot of the stuff we're talking about in this one, if you want to follow a Spotify playlist, I know it's funny to talk about Spotify tonight, but just for now, it's on Spotify. There's a Hot Rockin' playlist, which is where we get a lot of these singles we talk about in these streams. They come from that playlist. So follow the playlist, and it helps us also, to get more stuff out there as well. But there's more than just that there. So we talk about 8 singles a week. There's, like I said, about 10 to 15 tracks a day going on that playlist. So there's a lot. So go and check it out. You get something different every single day in that playlist. So please do check it out. For what's coming up next, so our end of the month special for February, because we've done January now, it's the last day of January, will be focused on Armored Saint for the online special. The TV cut will be focused on Armored Saint and overlooked 80s metal. That's the theme for those 2 episodes coming up. Thursday night on 8:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. Join us online. We'll be talking about the latest from Lawnmower Death and Praying Mantis. That's the band, Dave, the older English band there. Praying Mantis is the one I want you to listen to. So yeah, we're going to talk about the latest from Lawnmower Death and Praying Mantis, and a classic from Warrior Soul is the Patreon choice. That's another perk, being in the Patreon group, is that you get to vote on our classic album reviews every single week. So that's there for you to check out as well. Then at Thursday night again, 10 p.m. Australian Central Daylight Time, tune in Channel 44 in Adelaide, because that's our TV episode. This time around, it's you and me, Dave, along with TC. We go through our 1987 choices. That's part 1. Part 2 is next week on Channel 44 in Adelaide. And then on Saturday night, 10:30 p.m. on Channel 31, tune in to that station here in Melbourne, because you and I, Dave, again, go through some new music we've come across. There's Ghost, and there's Right After Midnight, and that was that episode that we did a few weeks back. So yeah, there's a lot in that one that's all new music that we haven't played before. So go and check out that on Saturday night. But I think that's about it for now. Thank you all so much for joining us. We're going to go to the bin. So this is the fun part of the evening now. So Dave, feed it. What have you got?
WWE.
I was waiting for that.
Yeah. Oh man. There used to be a time where I would not miss the Royal Rumble, and I would be avoiding spoilers, and I'd watch it. If I couldn't watch it live, I'd find a way. But now it's just like, well, tell me if anything interesting happened, and I might watch it. And I'm not going to bother this year. And the other thing that shits me about wrestling is returning or debuting wrestlers that somehow win a big event that'll give them a title shot. It's a slap in the face for your active roster.
Yeah.
People that are traveling away from their families, working every night, and some big shot comes in and wins a fucking title shot. And there's a lot of part-time wrestlers and the legends, but you should be building up your current roster to make the future. Because AEW has stolen a lot of WWE's talent, and they're doing great things with them. So
keep an eye on Jeff Hardy.
Yeah, they need Jeff Hardy. That'd be cool to have the Hardy Boys back, but I can't understand the logic of what WWE are doing, because they just continue to drop the ball. And I don't know how people keep watching because everyone just gets pissed off when the big events are finished. So I gave up on them years ago. It's just laughable. But yeah, WWE in the bin.
I'm sure you're not the only one, mate. The online commentary when that pay-per-view happened was fucking insane.
Yeah.
So, one of those things. Just quickly from the audience here, we got Rowan saying Joe Rogan's Voodoo Panani single in the bin. Right there with you, buddy.
Wow.
There we go. Even on the idea of that's worth putting in the bin. Mine's much more mundane, much more simplistic, but we do a lot of click and collect shopping. I'm sure you do the same thing, Dave. It's a lot of click and collect. It's just easier these days. But I'm putting in the bin because I've seen it a few times now. I'll pull up and I'll do the right thing. You hit the fucking, I'm in this bay, bring the item out, I'm ready to go, rah, rah. And then the bay next to you, someone pulls up, they get their bags, get out of the car and fucking walk into the goddamn shop. Fuck you. If you're not getting there for click and collect, it's not your fucking private parking spot. Go fucking park with the rest of the people you fuck with. People who aren't using click and collect but park in the click and collect base. Same thing for the disabled car parks too, by the way. You fucking credits. In there. Just fucking do the right thing. It ain't that hard. And I'm sure a couple of meters won't fucking hurt you to walk it. So just fucking does my head in that. I've said, I'm just really? Like, really? You're going to be that lazy when they're like literally they're 10, 15 meters from a car park and they can't be fucked, so they pull into the click and collect bay. It's like, the fuck is the point? Just park over there. Because if someone has a booking, what are they going to do? It's just
being selfish.
Yeah. Nah, fuck off. Get in the bin. Sally's going in the bin. I saw Easter eggs in Safeway today. Just why? Relax.
I saw them on Boxing Day.
Yeah, that was hot cross buns.
No, that was Easter eggs.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
I know that Jody and I saw them pretty early too. But yeah,
it doesn't surprise me though. We used to get them in between Boxing Day and New Year's Eve when I worked in Big W. Then they'd sit in the dock for like 2 weeks and melt.
Yeah, that goes well. But the thing is, we're getting Halloween decorations earlier, which you and I are both happy about. So
yeah.
It's one of those things. But yeah, no. Marketing's gone mad. We literally go from Christmas to Easter to footy season to Melbourne Cup to Halloween. It's just a cycle now. It's all a big cycle. That's what it's all about. But anyway, that's all that shit in the bin too, actually. Consumerism. There we go. Put that in the bin. Talking about Spotify tonight. But I think that's it. I think that's all we got time for tonight. Is there anything else you want to say before we get on out of here, Dave, or are you good to go?
No, been fun. Had a few different topics, a few different types of music.
Yeah. It's been a good one tonight. Happy birthday in advance for Thursday. That's why you won't be joining us. So there you go.
Turning 42. It's tragic. I plan to be drunk.
Oh my God. The horrors. But that's us for another session. Thank you all so much for joining us. It's been an absolutely fantastic night tonight. So it's been good to get a lot of comments coming through. And keep them coming as you watch this one back later on. Just because we're not here live with you now, we do appreciate it. If you tune in later on, we do appreciate you just as much as those that have joined us live. So whatever your thoughts, whatever your feelings, get in this one now or in the individual clips that come out from this content later on. But yeah, it's been an absolute blast. Thank you all once again for another fantastic session with us tonight. Got some comments coming through. So Nicole's going, thanks, guys. Always a great night. Thank you for joining us once again. And also the same for Sally. Thanks, guys. So thank you for joining us. But we look forward to much more very, very soon. But until next time, I'm Andrew.
I'm Dave.
As always,
drink up
and rock on.